Godspeed.
Ahoy, all of you flick freaks out there, what is going on? My name is Andrew, and we are going to continue on with my top 100 favorite movies of all time. Today we're going to be doing numbers 50 through 41. Just a reminder, as I say before all of these videos, keep in mind that this is not any representation of the top 100 critically acclaimed movies. This is my personal top favorite 100. So you may see movies on here that you think are too high, too low, shouldn't be on the list at all, or that I forgot some. That's perfectly fine. Remember, this is my personal favorite list. Having said that, I think we shouldn't waste any more time, and we should continue on with number 50. Coming in at number 50 on our list, we have the French film The Untouchables, starring Francois Ozon and Omar Sy. Omar Sy gives one of the most remarkable performances from an actor I'd never heard of before. This movie is about a young man who is going down the wrong path in life when he, through a series of happenstance, comes across this extremely rich gentleman who happens to be paralyzed from the neck down. And Francois Ozon says, "I will help you in your life if you help take care of me and be one of my sitters." And what happens then unfolds this incredible friendship where each person affects the other one's lives in remarkable ways. And just to see how these characters, their chemistry, how they work with each other is one of the most beautiful, beautiful movies. And the scores in this movie are just remarkable, incredible music that just touches you in the heart. And it just... beautiful, beautiful movie, and if you've never seen The Untouchables, it's definitely a neat one that you need to check out. Having said that, let's move on now to number 49. Coming in at number 49, we have Paul Thomas Anderson's film Boogie Nights. This movie stars Mark Wahlberg, Burt Reynolds, and Julianne Moore. This movie is funny, heartbreaking, horrifying, and just downright entertaining. It's about a young man in the 1970s who gets thrown into the world of the 1970s porn industry in California. And it's really weird because this movie feels really like it's two different movies. There's the 1970s half of Boogie Nights where everything is just happy-go-lucky, cocaine, drugs, sex, everything. It's if somebody ODs on cocaine, it's no big deal, you know, it's just something that happens in the 70s. But as soon as you get to 1980s Boogie Nights, it becomes an extremely horrifying and just downright hard to watch movie just by how uncomfortable some of the scenes are. There's a scene in the movie which I think is one of the most remarkable scenes. I'm not going to spoil it too much. I'll just call it the drug deal scene. I think that's fairly generic because there's lots of drug deal scenes in movies, but there's a scene in this movie I call the drug deal scenes. One of the most remarkably shocking and just intense scenes I've ever seen in a movie. And Paul Thomas Anderson is really great at delivering moments like that with a lot of his films. Probably my favorite director in Hollywood right now. If not my favorite, one of my favorite. So Boogie Nights, definitely one of his top criterions that everybody needs to check out. Having said that, let's move on now to number 48. Coming in at number 48 on our list, we have Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, Interstellar. Whenever Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan get together to write a script for a movie that they're going to end up making themselves, it's guaranteed that it's going to be an incredible movie. This movie stars Matthew McConaughey, Michael Caine, which he is in pretty much every single Christopher Nolan movie. It also stars Jessica Chastain, Casey Affleck, and a plethora of other amazing actors and actresses. The movie takes place in a relatively close future where humankind has reached a point where the earth is no longer able to sustain us. Crops are dying left and right, and it is time for humanity to find a new home in the stars. So NASA gathers the greatest minds they can to send people through a wormhole they found near Saturn that will take them to a different galaxy where they will be near planets that are possibly able to sustain human life. The journey that they go through is hands down one of the most beautiful CGIs for a film I've ever seen. there's a lot of people who would say like Gravity or Avatar or something that's just remarkably stunning, like those movies, that they could see those being the most beautiful CGI works they've ever seen in a movie. For me, it's Interstellar because it hits every single mark. It hits the colors, it hits the realism, and it's not too, like, back to color, it's not so colorful that it's unrealistic. There's parts of the movie where I'm like, wow, they're actually in space right now. I would not be able to tell the difference. Seeing this in IMAX really took it to a new level for me. And on top of all that, you have Hans Zimmer's score, which Hans Zimmer, one of the best composers in Hollywood, if not ever. He scored this movie remarkably with the organ music that just makes your heart race in certain points. And then to top it all off, on top of the directing, the writing, the score, the CGI, the number one thing that I would take away from this movie is the performances you get in this movie out of especially Matthew McConaughey and Jessica Chastain and Anne Hathaway. Those three give just brilliant performances. Matthew McConaughey gives a performance in this movie that will tear your heart. It's just heart-wrenching, some of the stuff that he goes through. Beautiful movie. Everybody should see this movie. Having said all that, let's move on now to number 47. Coming in at number 47, we have the Danish film that will make you never want to see another child in your entire life. The movie is called The Hunt, and it stars Mads Mikkelsen. Okay, so what this movie is about, because every single time I see this movie, it just makes me sigh just to think about what this guy went through. It's about a daycare, like kindergarten teacher in Denmark. The whole movie, it's a Danish film, so it's subtitles for English speakers. It's about this teacher for little kids who, all the kids love him. He's a great guy. He's fairly lonely. He lives by himself right now. He's fighting custody for his son, who's about 15 or 16. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, for some reason, this little girl in his class that he teaches just makes this little lie for some unknown reason that he was a little handsy with her. And it's not true. He just, for some reason, she just made this lie because one day he did something that made her mad. So she made this lie that destroys his life. Like, people in the town, no matter how much evidence and proof he can muster up that he didn't do this horrible act, people treat him like he is the plague. They beat him up, they terrorize him, they do the most horrible things. And to see this man go through all this stuff, it just breaks your heart. On top of that, you get a remarkable performance out of Mads Mikkelsen. He always gives amazing performances, but this one takes the cake as his best. So you definitely need to check this one out. Not for the faint of heart. Some horrible, horrible things happen in this movie, but at the end of the time, it is a remarkable movie nonetheless, and you should definitely check it out. Now it's time to move on to number 46. Coming in at number 46, Ridley Scott hands over the reins to James Cameron, and we get the sequel to the Alien film, Aliens. Obviously, we can tell there are more than one this time. This 1986 film is brilliant because it's an action movie, but it is still just as terrifying as the original film was. Sigourney Weaver gives a remarkable performance again, very believable. And the thing that I really love about this movie, and one of my favorite villains in history, is the Queen. The Queen xenomorph in this movie is terrifying. As you can tell from the box art right there, she is bigger and scarier and more badass than her little minions. And she is an amazing villain. As you don't see her until the very end of the movie, but she is well worth the wait in this one. Definitely, if you've never seen any of the Alien films, you definitely would need to watch the first one. But as soon as you're done with that one, this is the one you need to watch next, because I honestly like this one more than the original one. Now let's move on to number 45. Coming in at number 45, we have the 2005 film Munich. Directed by Steven Spielberg and written by Tony Kushner, this movie is remarkable. It's actually about the 1972 Olympics, where, if you're not familiar, the Israeli team was kidnapped by terrorists and they were actually massacred. The 1972 Munich Olympics ended in bloodshed as all the Israeli athletes were killed. So after that horrible event, the Israeli government found out who was responsible, and it was an organization known as Black September. And what they did is they had a bunch of agents resign from the Israeli Mossad so they would have no ties to the Israeli government, and then they sent them around the world to find all the members of Black September and kill them. Not like quietly kill them. They wanted to send a message. They wrecked house all over the entire world, and it's a brilliantly shot movie. It stars Eric Bana, and Daniel Craig actually is in this movie as well, and they both give remarkable performances, and you just see the world of spies and just how intricate and how thin of a line that these people walk. And actually, after seeing this, you could see where Daniel Craig actually got pushed into the line to be James Bond. And I think he did a remarkable job in this, but his performance actually did fall behind Eric Bana, who I think gave a remarkable performance. Now, let's move on to number 44. Like I said, whenever Christopher and Jonathan Nolan get together to make a film, they do not disappoint, and that is definitely true with their film The Prestige. It stars Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, Michael Caine, and David Bowie, who plays Nikola Tesla in this remarkable film about two apprentice magicians in the 1800s who are best of friends as they're being taught the ways of being the master of a deceit. But then one day, an accident makes them become bitter rivals and mortal enemies as they go against each other to become the greatest magician in the world. Whenever one comes up with what the other considers to be the greatest trick of all time, he makes it his life mission to find out how to do that trick, and not only that, but make it better. The movie, actually for me, it's the first movie I can remember where after I watched it, I immediately bought another ticket in the theater and watched it again because I had to see if I can catch all the little stuff. One of the greatest plot twists ever in the cinema history, just ever. One of the greatest ever plot twists ever. You know something fishy is going on, but you're not sure how it's being done. And then when it's revealed, your mind is blown. So if you have never seen The Prestige, it is now your life's work to make that a reality. Go and see this movie. You will not be disappointed. And now, let's move on to number 43. I'm a Dapper Dan Man. Coming in at number 43, we have the Coen brothers film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The movie stars George Clooney, Tim Blake Nelson, and John Turturro. It's funny because this movie actually, I talk to a lot of people, and you either fall in the I love that movie, it's brilliant, or you fell in the I didn't get it and I hate it category. There's no in between with this movie. You're either one or the other. Obviously, I'm in the loved it category, or it wouldn't be on my list. The movie is about three people in a chain gang, and they escape during the Great Depression to get to George Clooney's cabin because they have hidden away a bunch of money after a bank heist. And that's the money that they're going to get filthy rich off of, but they have to get there before all that money is gone at the bottom of a lake whenever they break a dam. They have 3 days to get there before it's all said and done. A lot of people don't know this. This movie is actually based off of Homer's The Odyssey. The old, like the first story ever, The Odyssey. Yeah, that one. This is actually taken from that, and they've adapted it for quote-unquote a modern performance. And it is a remarkable film. And I think the best part of this movie is George Clooney just being so funny. The obsession he has with his hair, that he is not a fop man, god damn it, he's a Dapper Dan man. And John Goodman is in this movie as well as the Cyclops. Big Dan, he gives a hilarious performance. But really, George Clooney's two cohorts, Tim Blake Nelson and John Turturro, they're just the funniest whenever they get together. It's just hilarity upon hilarity on every single scene that they're all together. So if you've never seen this one, like I said, you're either going to love this movie or you're just not going to get it. I really hope you do enjoy it as much as I do, because I think it's just a remarkable film. Having said that, let's move on now to number 42. So James Cameron's going to come in twice on our list this week for his film, number 42 on our list, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Edward Furlong, Linda Hamilton, and Patrick Roberts. The movie is obviously the sequel to the film Terminator, but I actually saw Terminator 2 first. It was the first R-rated film I can remember seeing as a kid, and whenever I got to watch it, it blew my fucking mind. A, because I'm a little kid and I get to watch this movie about robots fighting each other, and there's blood and fire and guns, and it was just an amazing movie. But as I grew up and I watched the movie over and over again, you realize just how smart the movie actually is. And the chemistry between Edward Furlong and Arnold Schwarzenegger was just great. How awkward Arnold was, because he really does carry that persona of a cybernetic human being or cybernetic organism. Just how stoic and robotic all of his movements are. It just lends itself perfectly to that kind of performance. And then, of course, you have Robert Patrick as the T-1000, one of the creepiest villains of all time. Whenever I saw the liquid metal robot, whenever I was a kid, it actually really scared me. But growing up, he became one of my favorite villains. And then, yes, the movie's filled with cheesy one-liners and stuff like that, from I'll Be Back to Hasta La Vista Baby. But you know what? There's actually a lot of heart in this movie, and a lot of, it really hits you in the feels, especially the very last scene in the entire movie. Yeah, growing up watching that movie, I kind of cried a little bit at the very end. If you've never seen it, I'm not going to spoil what happens. But if you've never seen Terminator 2 by now, what the fuck is wrong with you? Really, stop watching this video and go and watch it. The rest of us, we're going to continue on to number 41. And we have arrived at the last film on our list for this week, with number 41, The Lion King. The Lion King is my favorite Disney cartoon. Growing up watching this movie as a little kid, it was amazing. Again, this movie is based off a very historic piece of literature. A lot of people don't know this. This movie is actually based off of Shakespeare's Hamlet. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you've read Shakespeare's Hamlet, you can definitely see the crossovers and how it really is adapted for this movie. Just everything about this movie, the catchy songs, the great performances, and of course the part that makes everybody cry, the death of Mufasa. James Earl Jones, why do you have to die in every single movie when we love you in every single movie? Quit dying. Hashtag save James Earl Jones. The movie is brilliant, and I love it, and it definitely deserves a spot on everybody's list. It should be everybody's favorite Disney movie. If it's not, I really don't get it. Sure, there's a lot of people out there who could say some other ones, but for me personally, it's The Lion King, the best Disney cartoon out there. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's list. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that list with me this week. I had a great time, and we'll see you next week whenever we do numbers 40 through 31. If you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button over there, and if you check up in the top right corner there, you will see a little card. If you click on that, you will get taken to either the Game Geeks channel, which is our gaming channel here on YouTube. It's where we do walkthrough guides and Let's Plays for video games. Coming up in about 3 days, we are going to be doing the walkthrough guide for the Halo 5 Guardians campaign. Can't wait for that. That game is going to be incredible. I just know it. The other card that you can click on up there will take you to our store. You can find t-shirts, coffee mugs, cases for phones and tablets, and so much more. I'm really proud of all the designs that we have for all of our products over there, and you should definitely check it out. The last thing I will mention, we got a Patreon campaign. You can donate if you want, as little as $1 a month to help make the channel better. Every single dollar that gets put into the Patreon campaign gets put directly back into the channel to help make it better, because we're all going to make it better together. Thank you to everybody for watching. Don't forget, we're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Help make it happen, and we'll see you in the next video. Until then, Godspeed to 10,000 subscribers.
5, 4, 3, ready, 1, guys. 2, 1. This video's over!